Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. We are going to get set up and get started here very soon. I'm so excited you're here. My name is Neil Miller, the host of The Digital Workplace. We're also going to have Suresh Sambandam on this show. Very excited topic. We're just going to wait a few more minutes for a few others to join, and then we will get going. Well, thank you so much for joining this webinar. We are so excited because this is such an important topic that everyone is dealing with right now. We're all trying to figure out how to do the best we can in working from home and trying to figure out what remote work looks like for everyone involved today. As I said, my name is Neil Miller. I am the host of The Digital Workplace. It's so exciting to be here with you because this is a topic that everyone's talking about. We talk about the digital workplace all the time and how we can improve it, how we can take steps to advance beyond where we are right now. In this webinar, we are going to be talking about what it means to take a remote plus model. How can we go beyond remote and really get to a better place? The Digital Workplace is a site for you. It's a podcast, it's articles, it's a lot of resources for you to join the journey to a better future of work. We believe leaders like you that are listening into this podcast are eager to be able to see something new, to be able to take a new step towards a better digital workplace. So we help companies figure out what is the next best path for them to go from a level 2 to a level 3 workplace, to go to a level 4. And we highlight leaders who are doing that and people who have solutions for that to be able to show you the best way forward. You can see our website here, thedigitalworkplace.com. We have LinkedIn and Twitter where we're often there. We have a few other panelists on the show that are also helping us from the Digital Workplace that are helping us with some technical things as well. But the main thing we want to do today is to highlight one story of someone that's really doing something great. So today we're talking to Suresh Sambandam. Suresh is a friend of mine for more than 5 years now. We've done a lot of work together, and I really appreciate his insights. He's the kind of person who is always eager to take the next step. I love the fact that he's always wanting to try something new. If there's an option to do something, he's always going to be exploring it and figuring out if it's going to work. So his response to remote work, his response to this crisis is going to be extremely interesting for me to learn from and for all of you to learn from too. I'm sure many of you know Suresh, and I'm just excited for what's going to happen in this session. Before we let Suresh take over and give some of his presentation, I want to just make sure that we're all on the same line and talking about the same terms as we discuss some evolving work paradigms. When we look at this model in terms of how we work, there's 4 terms I really want to make sure everyone is clear on here. First is the idea of flexible work. Flexible work really just means people can have control and ownership over their time, whether that means they want to come to the office early or late, or if there's a certain part of the day that works best for them. That's flexible work. And really this can happen in an office-centric environment or anywhere, but it's often a part of remote work. The next level up from that is the idea of working from home. It's the concept that the center of your digital work doesn't necessarily have to be at your office, but perhaps even before the COVID crisis, you had people that had the option to work from home once in a while if there was an option to be able to be there at home for some reason. Remote work means that someone's permanent base is outside of the central office. So now this is where nearly all of us have been for the last few months because of the pandemic. You probably have all of your team working often from home, maybe from a different location. But the idea of remote work is that everyone's decentralized outside of the office that it comes through. And remote work brings a lot of great opportunities, brings a lot of great options that come, but it also has some disadvantages that we want to talk about and figure out how to move beyond. So if you're in the state of remote work and you're wondering how you can continue that, if you're wondering if it's something you want to continue, then this is the webinar for you. We're going to discuss what remote plus means and what are the options that surround that. Gartner recently revealed a survey on the impact of COVID-19 that was really telling. It said 82% of companies are going to allow employees to work remotely on some level. This is a huge shift, something we never thought was possible. The digital workplace as a resource has been around for more than 2 or 3 years. It's something we've been trying to promote, but we never imagined this kind of adoption would happen so fast. And it's great to allow companies to see that remote work is possible. You can't just stop there by sending everyone home. You have to make a lot of different setups to your infrastructure to make sure that this works well. And that's what we want to get into today, about how you can make the best out of remote work. So with that, I want to turn it over to my friend Suresh. We're going to be talking about a new normal of remote work, which is much better than we think of what we think of remote work. He calls it remote plus. Suresh, thanks so much for being on this webinar.
Hey Neil, how are you? Great.
Doing great, doing great.
Yeah, it's always wonderful to talk to you again. Yeah, you want me to take over from here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, hello everyone. I'm going to talk about Remote Plus, but even before I get into Remote Plus, we also wanted to talk about how we actually made the transition from the old way of working to the remote work first, right?
And Suresh, even before you do that, could you give us some background on what Kissflow is as a company and how big you are and that kind of thing?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that. So yeah, Kissflow is basically a digital workplace, which it basically helps companies to bring all their work together and in one single unified platform related to collaboration, coordination, which is both of case management and project management and workflow automation. So all of those pieces come together in one single unified platform. Kissflow is a global company, although it operates out of Chennai and in the US. We have customers in close to 160 countries. Yeah, we have close to roughly 1 million users and growing. We have 200 plus employees in Chennai. So that's really about Kissflow. We have really some marquee customers like Fortune 500 type companies, like 50 of them using Kissflow at scale. And some of the customers are using like 15,000, 20,000 employee base for Kissflow usage in their companies. So that's really Kissflow for you.
Excellent. So you're a product company, you're a technology company. You would think that, you know, we always have this image that technology companies are always kind of on the forefront being progressive with different things, but it's not just like it automatically happens, right? Walk us through these things you've been working on even behind the scenes before COVID started that led you to this place.
So one of the specifically about digital workplace, right? So see, even before COVID, we actually sensed it's just that COVID has become a little bit of a tailwind for us, right? Unexpected tailwind, right? But somewhere around 2018 types, we actually recognized that work is converging into a suite model instead of being a specialized tools model, right? The best example is like 20 years ago, you used to have Microsoft Word and Excel. Instead of Excel, you used to have Lotus 123 and Quattro and those kind of tools. And you had for Word, you had something like Word Perfect.
Yeah, you're going back way far, Suresh. These are old terms.
Yeah, exactly. But then, when you fast forward, now you don't have these tools, right? You basically everything is bundled into two products, which is in the Google ecosystem, you have G Suite, and in the Microsoft ecosystem, you have Office 365, and you don't really buy these individual products anymore. And I think a similar paradigm is brewing already in the workplace. And we call that digital workplace, and it's coincidental. You also run this digitalworkplace.com, and yeah. Right. So we call this product digital workplace. And when COVID came, it really became a tailwind to push digital workplace to the next level. The adoption and the need for customers to bring all work in one integrated digital environment became all the more important. So that's really the benefit that we saw because of COVID. Although it is unfortunate, a lot of people are going through a lot of health issues and all of that. But it's sort of a little bit silver lining for us because COVID is pushing the digital workplace adoption. In fact, there were some memes that were going on in cartoon, right? So the biggest adopter for digital transformation is not the CIO, it's not the CTO, it's not the CEO, but COVID, right? So yes. that's really true, right? So it's forcing companies to adopt digital transformation faster than anyone can imagine. Yeah. So, absolutely. So do you want me to go into this slide?
I think a few of these things, just to make sure people understand some terms. I see organizing teams as business units. Tell us more about the OKR internalization.
So yeah, so one of the things we did when we moved from the regular work model to the remote model, which people colloquially called as work from home, right? So we differentiate work from home from remote because work from home is one of work that you do, like you typically work in office for 4 days a week, and then 1 day a week you sort of work from home because you're not able to come to office. That's kind of a model. But remote work permanently means you're not mostly going to come to office. You're expected to work remotely. You may be working at home, maybe you're going and sitting near the cafe, or you're, one of our employees said they want to go to Dharmashala, which is near Himalayas, and then sit there and work for a couple of months. All of that is still remote work. We don't care whether you're at home or Dharmashala or Kodaikanal or Coimbatore. It doesn't matter to us. So that's really remote work. But for remote works to happen, one of the things that we did was we dismantled our organization, which used to work at a department level. When I say department level, we used to work as product teams, like engineering team, product management team, marketing team, sales team, customer success team. So something like that. So we used to work as departmental function. So we basically changed that into business units organized as verticals rather than horizontal departmental functions. That's a big change, which means instead of becoming departments or like 50, 60 people departments, and there is one department head, and it's very inefficient to manage 50, 60 people by one department head. Once we started organizing the entire function as individual products, the teams have actually become very, very small in size, right? So a typical product team size is like 12 members. And the marketing team within that BU is around like 7 to 8 members. So these teams have become very, very small, and the people who are managing the teams, like it's like they call it the 2 pizza teams, right? So that actually greatly helped us to execute this remote model much, much more efficiently than the departmental concept that we used to have. So that's something that we did. And then we also moved from giving tasks, there is this concept called management by wandering around. I don't know whether a lot of people have heard about management.
Yeah, we've had some guests talk about this before.
Yeah, management by objectives, but there's also this concept called management by wandering around, right? So many of the times we sort of wander around the company and say, hey, you're doing this, why don't you do this, blah, 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 right? So we tend to sort of do management in a very ad hoc fashion. But what we also went from that model to which we actually used to call as the task-based model towards an objective-based model, where we started completely relying on OKR model, which is objectives and key results. So basically, the notion of productivity is now changed, right? Because previously, when you check into office and when you check out of office and you clock in 8 hours, you assume that somebody has produced for 8 hours. So simply physical presence in office is attributed towards productivity.
Yeah, just presenteeism. If you show up, you did your work, right?
Yeah, if you show up, you did your work. That's really how it was considered before. But now with the concept of remote, there is no notion of showing up, right? We don't know where people are showing up in the first place, right? So the whole notion of productivity is very questionable. And you cannot simply say, hey, send me a timesheet. One of the ways companies are doing is like, end of the day, you send me a timesheet, what all you worked on today, and then, file a submit a timesheet, and then some manager reviews it and then, executes it. So that's a reactive way of incrementally reacting to the COVID scenario. But what we went ahead doing was we completely moved away from that model and then said, what, we're going to set up the OKR model and define objectives and key results, and we're going to track only objectives and key results against that. And that actually provided tremendous amount of transparency to the whole organization.
It seems very unique that you were doing all these things even before the crisis hit, and really, as we're going to see, it really helped you in this transition. So let's move ahead here and talk about some of the benefits that you had as you made this transition. So COVID happens, you guys actually made the transition to work from home a week before the government announced anything, but immediately people were feeling some of those benefits. So walk us through some of these.
Yeah, see, one of the, we were a little bit skeptical, honestly, I should say. I was, in fact, even predicting there'll be 20 to 30% productivity down. But
and why was that, if you don't mind going into?
Because I should say I was still stuck in the old paradigm, honestly, right? So because it is like the notion of people are coming to work, and there is a notion that what people are doing because they are in the office. We are still stuck in the old paradigm. And once once we say, you know what, people are not going to come to the office, they're going to sit in the home, and the natural instinctive reaction to that is, you know what, we don't know what people are going to do. So there is going to be like 20 to 30% dip in productivity. That's an instinctive reaction.
Right.
But on the contrary, it just proved us to be like totally wrong, and people ended up doing a lot more sensible and work, right? And we actually saw a good productivity increase. We improved on, because it's remote work, people started writing a lot. They had to put out documents, they had to put presentations. See, previously when they're coming to office, they took a lot of things for granted. They just walked across the desk and then talked to people, right?
Yep.
They never bothered to put a presentation. Now they're at home, they need to communicate something. You cannot just walk across a desk, and there is no whiteboard, right? So for us to draw something. So that forced them to do a presentation or a document, send it upfront, and then review it people. So which means that they have to put a lot more thought process into their thinking. So the planning and communication and documentation improved a lot. The beauty is now the individuals, a lot of times people sort of hide in gangs, right? With remote work, what happened is now there is only one person themselves who are responsible for delivering something. Now you are sitting alone and doing it at home, and you've done it or not done it. So everybody in the team will somehow sort of come to know about it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We've talked about this about productivity before, that really, if you're working in an office, you can show up like properly dressed and just sit around, and you could probably last for a couple of weeks before someone would really notice that you weren't doing any work. But remote work really reveals what you're doing and what you're not doing.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So that really happened. And then there is no travel time and commute stress. I mean, although some amount of commute will also be a stress reliever for some people, right? But
Yeah, it's
most
true.
of the time, people who are traveling like 2 hours, sometimes people are traveling 2 hours one way, right? So people are coming from Red Hills to Tidal Park, which is like 1.5 to 45 minutes. So that's like roughly 3 hours up and down. That's a lot of stress, right? And all of that time now people had for themselves to invest in work, and that also improved productivity gain. And then people are able to do very flexible work hours, because literally they can control their time. They also had more time with families, and do some more hobbies that they always wanted to do, but they were never been able to do. So these are some of the big advantages we saw. See, ultimately, if you look at Kissflow is an employee first organization. Most of the companies talk about customer first organization. And Kissflow is basically like an employee first organization. The reason I talk about this is only employees basically create. We have this notion of collective. Kissflow is sort of like a collective. We use the word collective, right? As a collective, we do a lot of good things, and that good things results in creating good products, and then you get customers, and then happy customers lead to good revenue, and then the cycle repeats. So the starting point for us is really employees and employee wellness. So which means it's important that employees have family time, they have their own hobbies, they have fun, they're happy, and all of that. So that's really important for us from a culture standpoint.
Yeah, I like that term collective, because I think too many times we think of a company like Kissflow is a thing. It's not really a thing. It's 200 things. It's 200 people that are connected together. So I like that.
Yeah. So, but the COVID, not only it was advantages, right? But COVID also threw up a bunch of challenges for us. I think I'm also going to, we have put 9 top most challenges that COVID has thrown into the mix, right? The first one is we had missing communications, face-to-face communications. There were a lot of informal connections that was there. So I tell this, right? A lot of time we think about work-life balance. And when we talk about work-life balance, we think about like office as work and life is outside of office, right? And as if there is no life in the work.
Yeah.
Right. So, but once you remove office due to COVID and lockdown, then only you realize there was so much life that was happening at work, right? People were, chit-chatting, gossiping, spending time during coffee time, half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the evening, 1 hour during lunch times. They share information with so many, meaning they're missing all that relationships. People want to get out, never realize that when you come to office, you also get some entertainment.
Yeah, it's true.
Notion of office as an entertainment zone was never in our vocabulary, right? We never even imagined office as an entertainment place.
Yeah.
We always thought about office as a serious workplace. But then once you remove office because of lockdown and COVID, then you realize, you know what, office has been doing something that we have been not aware of. So there are a
Yeah.
lot of informal connections. Then onboarding new employees, because existing employees adopting to remote is one thing, but a new employee who has not come to understood what Kissflow is, what do we offer, and adapting to Kissflow's culture, onboarding them into the system, that's a completely new ball game. So this is the challenge for us in the remote model. And most of our employees did not have office setup. See, in the US, work from home is a well established concept. People have professional desk, even isolated environment, everything, right? So
Yeah. Homes are usually bigger. You can have more space to go around.
exactly. So sometimes people live in 2-bedroom houses, right? So there is cramped. So there is no spare private space. So again, distractions at home. I mean, one employee said, one of the mother said, you know, you're free. Why don't you go dry the clothes, which is just coming out of washing machine, right?
Yeah.
So which means people were forced to do things like that, and distractions from work, all of that, which is affecting people to concentrate on their work. Of course, one of the other problems is like, whiteboarding. See, some functions like design and engineering, they do a lot of their work itself is about drawing and describing some concept in the board and then finalizing it and then taking it to the next level. And whiteboarding, although there are tools available online, but it was never, the experience of doing the whiteboarding on the board, physical board, is never unmatched. Is not matched at all, right?
Yeah.
Online tools. So that's a big challenge. And then of course people got burnt out because they started working long hours. They're not able to clock out of the work because you don't. There is when office was there is a clear check in and check out time. So there is a clock in and clock out time. But then since you're working from home, there's one continuous. There's no real physical barrier. Of course, we ran into productivity measuring issues, and then finally, one of the things is at Kissflow we don't have a CEO's office or anything like that. I don't sit in a cabin or anything like that. So that had a lot of benefits for me because I used to sit along with the rest of the employees. So which means that people used to come in and check, sort of pass by me, talk to me, have a conversation. They never had a notion of booking any appointment to meet me or talk to me. They just come in, drop into my desk, discuss something, and then walk off. But because of this remote work, that was never possible. So these are some of the top 9 challenges that we had, and we figured out how to solve some of these things step by step. We'll probably go through that.
Yeah, so this is what you call the remote plus model, right?
Yeah, so that's really what we call as remote plus. So the remote plus is just working remote, but then the remote model also has those 9 challenges. The remote plus is nothing but a model that combines a solution for those 9 challenges along with the remote model. That essentially is the remote plus model that we are propagating, and we are recommending that others can also take this playbook and follow in their companies. They are putting it out in public domain. We're sharing our knowledge so that the community can actually benefit from this, right? So go to the next one. So when it comes to face-to-face communication, what we have done in the remote plus model is that we have done 3 weeks work from home and 1 week work from office. And the way we have done it is we have 4 big teams in the company, like the marketing team, the product team, the sales team, and the customer success team. And then we are 4 weeks in a month. So we basically said, you know what, all these teams will come once in a week together and work together as a single unit. Right?
And will these units be by business units like you talked about earlier, or by departments?
It can be a little bit of a hybrid of both. We have left it to the teams to design whether it is departmental oriented. Ideally, it is better if it is business unit oriented, but maybe a little bit of mix of both has to be done. So this has also helped us to sort of offset the face-to-face communication problem. The second thing that we have also done is planned. We are not able to do it because of lockdown. Is we decided to do a company quarterly conference. Just like we attend conferences, the whole company will be in a conference mode for 2 days in a quarter. where each function will have some sort of a track sessions presenting what they have done in the last quarter, and everybody else will sit and listen to it. Because the BU level marketing department level face to face will only solve the interdepartmental or inter BU related problem, but communication problem. But we also have the company level, collaboration, company level information exchange. That problem will not be solved. So we have came up with this idea that we will have quarterly company conference, which is 2-day conference where individual functions will present track sessions where anybody can attend and listen to what's going on and be updated about what's happening. So that's the other one.
I like that a lot.
Yep. And then, of course, for informal communications, we have this application called Donut, which actually randomly connects employees one-on-one to sort of meet up so that they'll be able to, it'll be able to offset the missing communication. And we also set up a Google Cafe in Google Meet. It's called Cafe. It's just a virtual cafe. And people can just go there and there'll be a bunch of people hanging out and doing some chit chat. We're trying to replicate the physical cafe and the virtual world. So it's a always on Google Meet video session that anybody can just log in and then just have a chit chat and then spend some 15 minutes and then log out of that. So that is the second thing that we have done.
That's nice. I feel like that cafeteria, especially, is just a place where like you start to decompress your thoughts and start to really think about things, you process things. So being able to do that with other people is great.
Exactly. People talk about movies, people talk about politics, we'll talk about so many things, right? So they talk about music sessions, they talk about games. And when I say games, the computer games, there is a huge group of computer games. There's a biker gang in the office, and there is also a group of people who watch soccer, like European football, right? So all of that conversations happen in cafe, and with this online cafe, that's again possible. Yeah. Nice. If you go to the next one, I've gone employee onboarding process. We changed the process to make sure that the employees who are hiring newly will be onboarded when the 1 week work from office is available. And we're also setting up this veteran buddy for this first month. And we also wanted to engage with these employees. We started engaging with this new prospective joining employees like 1 month in advance during their notice period, engaging with them, having conversations with them. So they're just warming up them so that when they come on board, they're not fish out of water. So that's the thing that we have done. Again, for home infrastructure, we have given 80% reimbursements for all setup costs. 3 things we have said: a desk, a computer, a Wi-Fi router. They can buy up to 80%. Company will reimburse that. Distractions at home. We are also partnering with few companies to set up. It's not mandatory you need to work from home. Office will always be open. Whoever is nearby office can come to office and work. It's their choice. But we also setting up co-working spaces near the employees' houses so that people don't have to travel all the way to do this. So one of the things which I forgot to mention was Kissflow has recommended employees go back to their native places. So we're basically starting to support the true, go local, truly vocal about being local. So that's really our motto, right? So we wanted to recommend to employees who are coming from native places like Madurai, Trichy, Coimbatore, Kadalur, Vilpuram, all those places. They don't need to come back because most of them are bachelors. They're taking paying guest accommodations. They're spending half their money in food and rent and bike and travel and all of that here. And when they go back, somebody who's getting like 50,000 rupees salary, if they're in Chennai, they're probably going to spend 25,000 on expenses, and their savings is only 25,000. But if they're back in their home, pretty much all the 50,000 rupees they're going to save. There is really huge savings potential for them, and that can improve not just their own personal quality of life, but we can also improve environment. We can worry about less about urbanization. We can also build the local economy in their hometowns, and we are doing a lot more favor to the country, to the state, to the economy and everything. So there is a lot more social interest in doing that. So anyway, so because of that, we are also figuring out in tier 2 cities as well as in within Chennai, in locations like Ambattur or Annanagar, set up some co-working spaces so that people there don't have to travel all the way to Tidal Park, but they can just sort of be there near the places. So that will also solve the distractions at home problem.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite points. I hope we'll have some time to talk about this later too.
Sure, sure. Yeah, and then I think one of the problems we have not fully solved, honestly, is that although we have tools like Miro that we are trying to use for whiteboarding, some of the teams have tried it. It seemed to be solving partly the problem. I should admit that this whiteboarding problem for design and engineering team, which is very much into brainstorming sessions, is not a fully solved problem for us. So we are still figuring out how to solve this problem. I don't know, maybe some AR, VR kind of technology, maybe we need to adopt. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
This one is an unsolved problem. Um, so again, the burnout problem, we are basically, trying to see how to reduce meetings, have a no meeting day. Some of this, actually, I should say, some of these are an idea stage. We are not able to fully put it in production, but we are ramping up some of these things. But these are our ideas, which we are trying to share here. Some of these are
Yeah.
not fully in production, I should say.
Yeah, I think the meeting issue is a tough one because I think a lot of companies will resonate that whenever they made the switch to remote work, meetings actually increased because people felt like they needed to talk more and do things. But man, if you have one of those days where you just have meeting after meeting, it really drains you fast and you get to burnout and you feel like you didn't do anything that day. So it's a big topic.
Exactly. So one of the things we are recommending people is to use calendar very effectively. And one of the ways of doing calendar is you can mark your own, like I do that now. Previously, I don't do that. Now I actually mark my own work slots and then put it as personal work, so that otherwise everybody ends up blocking my calendar completely for like 10 to 11 hours. I'm really not able to do anything. So I put my own block of time for doing some work. So I think employees also starting to do that, so that they can get out of this particular problem. Measuring productivity, again, we talked about how we went into the OKR model, right, instead of
Right.
using activity based model. So yeah, I think we covered that. And finally, CEO accessibility. This is one of the important things for me. See, I value a lot of my time openly available for people to come and talk to me, access to me, to get any information, cutting across all levels of hierarchy. This is something that I value a lot, and COVID has really prevented me from reaching out to the entire community of our colleagues in the company. So what I have done is I've created something called a video desk for myself. This is an always on video desk, which is I'll be there logged into it all the time. So anyone can just sort of come in and talk to me without having an appointment or anything like that. And if I'm sort of busy, they'll basically sort of come back a little later. It's very, very similar to how you knock doors and then go into somebody's room. Is somewhat similar to that. Meaning we've experimented that is worked a little bit for us. So, but this is also partly working solution. It's not a fully working solution, honestly, I should say. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
we
this
are
is
also
great.
doing this quarterly Ask Me Anything sessions, so that people have more ways to talk to me, collaborate, ask questions and get clarified. So I think what COVID is forcing us to do is double down on our communication to like 2x. So whatever we are communicating, we need to double down that communication into 2 times, so that otherwise, I think we'll get disconnected from the community. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing we talk about on the digital workplace all the time, is that a digital company has to be better. Like, you have to do communication better. You have to do leadership better. You talked about, how reporting works out and how you're checking in on people. You have to do productivity better. The OKR model is a superior model to just presenteeism or managing by tasks. And when you're in that digital model, that remote model, it's really the only one that works too, but it takes some time to get used to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is my final summary. The way we see it is remote plus is not just another way. It's permanently changed the paradigm of work. I feel that although the trigger for this happened because of COVID pandemic, this has opened our eyes and given us new possibilities, which is going to stay here as a permanent way of work. So remote work means improved quality of life, which means increased loyalty, which means remote work means we can get workforce anywhere in the world. You're not confined to Chennai or India for that matter. You can literally be anywhere in the world, right? Which means pretty much the talent pool is wide open. The flexible work employee environment really means employee is going to be a lot more comfortable. They're not going to leave because this option is not going to be available in any other very few companies. So which means that they're a lot more, the stickiness with the company will be higher. When people really move back to hometown, which we actually truly believe this is going to improve our contribution to the local economy, to the state, to the country, and in fact, the environment. So we're truly bullish about this remote plus model, which actually is changing the way we work. And we are sort of setting the trend. The remote plus model is a unique model, I should say, and it's a globally unique and a first approach, which combines the best of breed of in-person work environment plus remote. It's a hybrid model, but we have put together a playbook of how to do this hybrid model so that others can also follow this model. So that's really what this remote plus is. It's not rocket science. Let me be clear. It's not like rocket science where we invented something. It's just that we are a little bit ahead of the curve and we have put some thought process in how to make this happen. Now we are sort of sharing that so that others can also benefit from that. So also when we open up our ideas to others, it becomes an opportunity for people to see flaws or gaps in it and then sort of contribute to it. Together we can mature the model and then sort of help each other. So that's also the idea here.
Yeah, no, I agree that, this isn't like you said, it's not rocket science. It's not changing a new paradigm no one's ever heard about or no one else could think about. But I feel like there is an amount of bravery that it takes to be the first to try it, to say, hey, no one else is doing this, but we feel like we want to do that. And that's the spirit that we love at the digital workplace is companies that are willing to say, why not? Let's try it. Let's see what happens when it goes through here. So we invite you and others to take these experiments and try them out. What we're going to do now is kind of switch to a little bit of a Q&A time. So if you have questions, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on Zoom, if you're on Facebook, go ahead and write some questions in. We have some people that'll be monitoring those as they come through. I want to start with this idea about the local aspect. We've interviewed people from Zapier, from Basecamp that are extremely like almost fully remote companies, which is really exciting to see. They're fully distributed. But there is something that misses out on that local feel. Like we are a company that comes from a particular place. Your company has a very strong identity locked into specifically Tamil Nadu. And I like that. I like the fact that you guys are very, like you say, vocal about being local. So tell us more about how this remote plus model you feel like can really uplift a whole region and really focus on that.
One of the things I feel is there is a lot of people who are not able to move. See, success is meaning there is a formula, right? Effort, success is equal to effort multiplied by opportunity. Mm-hmm. Now, if opportunity is 0 and you multiply how much ever effort with 0, you get
still
success.
0.
Success is 0, right? So that's really what being local is about, going to local is about. There are a lot of people with hardworking effort and talent available in different places, like Coimbatore, like Madurai, but especially women. I'm very particular about women employees, right? And women employees in living in even urban, they may not be able to come out of, see, the whole process of getting out of the home and coming to work and going back and then picking up kids and then again, going back, home and then balancing all this nightmare. It's a very difficult thing for women, and it forces them, not to consider a career path for some time, especially when they have kids. So both in terms of rural talent as well as women talent, this being local approach is a boon.
Yeah.
Right. And it just opens up the opportunity for them, and then they're able to now compete with the urban folks and get the same opportunity. We are not no longer, they cannot. Previously, our office is in Chennai, somebody is in Madurai, they have to move to Chennai to actually start working in Kissflow, right? Now that means you're completely shutting down. See, Chennai has only 1 crore people. Tamil Nadu has 8 crore people, and India has 120 crore people. Right, so that's really what the scale of opportunity that we are able to open up because of this. Anywhere the talent that we're able to access.
Yeah, I'm also thinking about spouses that have to move because maybe, I mean, oftentimes it's a husband that gets a job somewhere else, so then they have to quit a job or quit a career they're in the middle of. Like you're talking about women, I think that's a great situation. You think about people who have a physical disability that maybe have struggled to commute, struggle to get to an office. A lot of offices aren't accessible for those type of people. So this also opens the door for them too.
Exactly.
Good. Before we go into the Q&A from everyone else, one more question is about just employee well-being, health, mental well-being, physical well-being. What are some of the things that you're noticing? Like you said, there's a certain amount of, I don't know if you can call it medicine, but a certain amount of benefit you get just from being in the office. There's some amount of perk that comes from that if you have a good culture around you. But when you're home, you don't get that. So what are some of the things you've been doing to encourage employee well-being?
Meaning, this is a very difficult topic. I should also admit that we haven't fully solved this problem, right? But we are doing a bunch of things. For example, we have this Friday G2G sessions, which is called Good to Great. We used to have very serious topic, before COVID, right? Now our team has completely came up with this idea of transforming this G2G session into completely fun Friday sessions, right? People are doing singing, like dumb charades and, doing all sorts of games during that Friday 1 hour, 5:30 to 6:30. The other thing that we are doing is we are doing a morning yoga for 7:30 to 8:30, and then the evening yoga again 5:30 to 6:30 every day, Monday to Friday, because that's yoga is known to help not just physical fitness and flexibility, but also mental health and stress. It's a good stress buster. At the end of this 1 hour program, which I'm also part of, there is like 10 minutes. The yoga master gives this called the whole body relaxation technique. Actually, when you go through that whole body relaxation technique, it's in 10 minutes. He basically gives you this power nap kind of an experience, right?
Nice.
His yoga master name is Kanayan. He's our employee too.
He's inside the company. Okay.
He's a 15 years of experience in yoga. And there is another guy by name Dilip. These two are like resident yoga masters. We are lucky to have them. And this 10-minute complete body relaxation is a boon actually, because I tend to sleep off in the 10 minutes, take a power nap, and actually that energizes you a whole lot, right? So this is the second thing that we're doing. The other thing which I wanted to talk about, I mentioned this in another webinar which we did a month ago. We hit upon this book called Leadership and Self-Deception, which we thought about that book as a management book, as a leadership book, but then it turned out to be a spiritual book. Meaning I'm sort of an agnostic atheist kind of a person, but I'm not in the believer of God, but still I use the word spiritual because spirituality is about going inside yourself.
Yeah, right? Something that goes beyond the physical.
Yeah, it's going beyond the physical, right? So that's really what the spirituality is all about. And that book is a very, very deep spiritual experience. And luckily we were able to do group reading for our entire company. I should say 95% of our company has gone through reading that book together as a team of 8 to 10 people. We have split the whole company into 8 to 10 people, and we have made sure that every one of them read it. So that actually has built a lot of mental wellness and introspection, self-reflection, and looking inside, those kind of opportunity. So we are constantly figuring out how to work with mental health, how to solve the mental health and mental wellness problem. I don't think there is one easy answer. We are going to continuously come up with programs to solve that problem.
Okay, well, let's jump into some of these questions that are here. We have a few questions about OKRs, which I think a lot of companies are just trying to figure out what that means in their situation.
Actually, OKRs, coincidentally, I think I have a recording. Maybe I can share that. I actually did a session, a playbook on OKRs, how to implement OKRs for a company. I'm also one of the founding members of SaaS Boomi, which is a community for SaaS founders and entrepreneurs. So for that, I did recently, like 2 weeks ago, I did a 3-hour workshop for 20 or so founders on OKR model. It's a 3-hour workshop. I think I have the recording. So I can share that if you guys are interested. So that will be useful. Maybe there will be a future workshop that we are doing from SaaS Boomi. Just look at, meaning just follow SaaS Boomi Twitter handle. In future, when there is announcement, you can join that. That's actually a very good program which systematically explains what is an OKR, how to go about doing it. It's not an easy exercise. So OKR internalization and implementation will take easily, it is taken like close to 6 months for us, right? 4 to 5 months at least for us. It's going to easily take 3 months minimum for any company. And it's a very sophisticated program, but once it's implemented, it's a very effective program. So
Can you give maybe just one example from your company of one OKR that you have and how it's working out so far?
Like one of the, see, for example, we launched into the digital workplace category. One of the OKR is positioning Kissflow as the leader in the digital workplace category, because digital workplace itself is a new category and we need to work backwards in terms of figuring out how to Kissflow will become a leader in the digital workplace category. Now we are able to, now that we set that as one of the top objectives, we were able to break that down into smaller objectives in terms of what it means in the product, what it means in the marketing team, branding team, PR team. Now everybody was able to clearly identify what work that they need to do in their function and how is it connected to this company's objective of becoming a leader in the digital workplace. And we are able to now track every work that people are doing to say, hey, you know what, I'm doing this because this is related to PR, related to digital workplace becoming a leader in it. So that whole connection we are able to see from the last level employee to their manager, to their department, to the company level objective. That whole traceability is connected. Otherwise, people are just working on something without having the clarity how the work that I'm doing is connected to the larger goal that the company is marching towards. Mm-hmm. That connection is what OKR establishes.
And there's still some amount of a time factor you put with it, right? A goal by a certain deadline.
Yeah, meaning it's split across, meaning three, strategically, you look at it at the 3-year goal, and the OKR, strategic OKRs are 3 years. And then a lot of tactical OKRs are at annual level and at quarterly level. These are the 3 levels of timelines that OKRs are connected to.
Good. Do you all have multiple shifts that you do, or is everyone on the same shift?
No, we have 3 shifts. We have the US shift, we have the Australia shift, as well as the sort of UK shift. Yeah.
Okay. There's a question that's come in about night shift. If somebody's working night shift and they're working from home, that seems to be a challenge, especially if if they're taking support calls or something like that where they need to be loud. Yeah. So, any thoughts on how to adjust that?
Yeah, we had this problem initially. I think it was a little bit of a surprise because initially even our own employees who are working in the US night shift said it is difficult to do night shift from home. But somehow after a few weeks or meaning like 4 to 5 weeks of trying to do from home, because we were anyway locked down, we couldn't do anyway come to office because Chennai is in total lockdown. They came back and said it is doable. So our original plan was to have night shift people alone come to office anyway, because it's difficult to do night shift is how we have also initially understood it. But our colleagues basically came back and said, no, it is possible to do it. And we are right now, allowing even the night shift folks to do from the remote plus model, follow the remote plus model. But again, I've asked them to relook at it, whether it is practically working out. If it is not working out, we might have to relook at that night shift process. I think that question is a very, very valid question. I think the person has really experienced the problem.
Yeah, for sure. And I like the fact that you're being open and honest about this, and you're admitting, hey, we don't have it all figured out yet, because I think everyone needs to realize that we're all treading into unknown water and we're trying to figure it out together. So doing this as a community is important.
Yeah, exactly. Correct.
Let's talk about companies of different sizes. So you have about 200 employees that are there. How do you imagine that a remote plus model might look different at a very small company, let's say 20 to 25 employees, or an extremely large one over 1,000? Do you feel like the same things you're setting up would work there, or how would that need to change?
I think for smaller companies, it's actually easier. The remote plus model is more difficult the bigger the company becomes, especially when you're already like 1,000+ employee and suddenly trying to go to remote plus. That will be very difficult, because a lot of these processes and systems and organizational structures and boundaries will be already set up, and the remote plus will completely shake up, do a lot of sort of a shake up or shake out of all these things, right? And people need to come out of their comfort zones. A lot of job and role definitions have to be redrawn, and people's responsibility have to be redefined, and people might get into some sort of a fear, right? And all of that will force people to say, you know what, we'll go back to the status quo, which is like what we are used to do before COVID times. So I think for smaller companies, you see, we are 200 employees, we are able to do it, which means I'm assuming 200, 300, 400 people, company should be able to do it. I don't see any problem. But if you're 1,000 employee company, it'll be a lot more challenging.
Sure.
And also, it is a mindset as well as a conviction. Most of the thing you are not able to take on any new initiative, because most of the times the founders and the management team and the leadership team is not having the conviction about that idea.
Yeah.
So once you have the conviction about the idea, you'll be able to execute it. But if you're not convinced about that idea, then it's difficult to execute it. So yeah, that's really where I see the crux of the problem lies most of the time.
Okay, Suresh, let's do some lightning round question here. I'm going to say a word and you give me the first thing that pops in your head. So I'm talking about technology, okay? About the tools you guys are actually using to pull this off. So I want you to say the first words that come into your head when I say essential to remote work. What are the top 3 things that you guys use all the time?
Of course, we use Kissflow Digital Workplace. So that is nice. The number one tool I cannot afford not to mention that, because we use it internally in a very, very big way. That's a number one tool. The second tool that we use really very highly is Google's G Suite, because all our document collaboration, email, Google Meet, video collaboration, audio collaboration, spreadsheets, all of that happens in Google Meet. These are actually the two top tools that are really important for us.
So between Kissflow and G Suite, you could basically manage the essentials fine.
Yeah, correct. This is the 2 essentials that we have, and most of the things we can accommodate within this.
Yeah, let me give you another word: emerging. If you feel like there's one tool that's like maybe in the future we're going to use this a lot more than we do now, it has potential. What do you think? I saw you had Miro in terms of whiteboarding. Are there other tools like that you're like, maybe this will become bigger?
I think the one tool that we'll be using heavily is OKR tracking tool. Because we are implementing OKR very deeply into the company. So because the OKR will become the way of working, so the OKR tracking tool will be something that we'll be using heavily, because there is a concept of check-in, check-out in OKRs. Like we can do, it's not like attendance, but it's more like objective related updates. We call that check-ins in OKR. So that check-ins will really help us to know what people are doing and where they are getting stuck. So that will be one of the tools that we will heavily use, I guess.
And then what's maybe one tool, if you feel brave enough, what's one tool you feel like is fluff, is just like overrated? You thought maybe you would need it, but in the end, it's not really adding much value?
I don't know. I think Zoom was like that. In the sense, See, initially Zoom as a standalone tool, we actually, it's not a fluff per se, but I don't know whether Zoom as a standalone tool is justified in collaboration, right?
To
That's
have a
when,
completely separate video platform from everything
yeah,
else.
yeah, correct. As a standalone, separately video platform. But that is where G Suite, one of the things we moved to G Suite, the premium enterprise edition recently, because it has recording for all the employees. Then that has an integrated experience. That is what it is. I don't know. It still qualifies to called as fluff. Zoom is still useful. I don't know. Meaning you caught me there.
Okay. Good. Well, I mean, and the reality is, if something's fluff, usually you stop using it and you forget about it. So it moves on from
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Meaning we are still using Zoom for these kind of webinars,
Yeah.
which is actually
Yeah.
quite useful. I don't
As long
think.
as they don't listen in.
Sorry.
We can't call them fluff while we're using their platform right now.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So I think that's what I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay, let's have another question from the participants here. Somebody's talking about people who live out of town, Coimbatore, Salem. If they're coming into Chennai once a week, what's your solution in terms of accommodation? Are you going to provide that accommodation? Are you expecting the
Yeah,
employee
correct.
to have that?
Exactly. So once a week, okay, I forgot to mention that since once a week employees are coming into Chennai, we have service department. We have planned for, since Chennai is fully not out of lockdown, so we have planned for service departments, fully for furnished service apartment. They just come in, stay in that. We have separate, planned for separate service departments for men and women, so that people can come in, just hang out there, stay there. Probably also plan for commute, which is company organized commute from the service apartment back to the office and back and forth and all of that. So that's already taken care of. So they don't really need to plan anything. So they can technically vacate their paying guest accommodations or all of that and then go back to native places. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I like this question. It says, work's a never-ending cycle. With remote work, the expectations seem to have changed. The new norm is that you respond at any hour and might be taken for granted. How do you switch off from work mode completely without losing dignity or respect from colleagues and managers? How do you establish this feeling of there's still a time for work? It's not like your manager can reach you any hour of the day. So how do you build that?
I think it is deeply rooted in the culture. See, some of these problems you cannot solve them at the superficial level, right? Some of these problems are cultural problems. Actually, if you build a culture where employees and managers, their supervisors, they trust and respect each other, right? I think we have that environment in Kissflow. We have never run into this particular problem uh, in Kissflow, because people have that kind of a cultural understanding. Like when you have a very regressive environment, then when your manager tries to reach out to you, at odd time, you get really upset. But if you have a very friendly, very good relationship with your manager, and you are basically taking it in a very normal sense, you're not trying to say this guy is trying to reach out to me in odd time to get more work done, because that's not the intent. Once that becomes the intent, then your culture is really screwed up culture. So and that's where the real problem lies in. If the employee start thinking that the manager or supervisor is calling to get more work done in any time in your time, then the whole thing is broken.
Yeah.
So this is the root, but on top of it, we need to be prudent as leaders. We need to be prudent as to and be conscious and be aware of this whole thing that is happening. Plus, we can also use technology. Part of the online platforms that we are using, there is options to set notification times and work times. Like for example, when you post some messages, there is options to say, don't send me any notifications after my work hours, which means next day when I log into the system, then only all the notifications starts coming to you, which means that you are not compelled to reply to those messages, then and there. So first is rooted in culture. Second is you need to have the leadership team, that leadership and management team, which is cognitive about it and be aware about this issue. And the third is you use technology. It's a combination of all these three things that you need to use to solve this particular problem.
Yeah, I agree. It's a culture thing. It's a leadership thing, because even if, you as a CEO, you can tell somebody all they want, hey, reply to me whenever you want. But if your CEO sends you a message at an 8 in the evening, there's that impulse like, oh, I have to respond, even if it's there. So
Yeah.
there's almost an obligation on leaders to say, even before you send the message, or don't send the message until later, to say, hey, reply later, as a heading for that or something.
Yeah,
I agree.
actually, some of the people who directly work with me, I have sort of said that internally. See, I have this issue that whenever something comes to my mind, I don't want to forget it. I want to sort of send it to the person. So I actually want them, if I'm sending that message, does not mean I'm expecting a reply from you.
Yeah.
You don't have to reply. So you can reply whenever you can reply. So it's just that I'm just getting it out of my mind so that it comes to you, so that there is no pressure to reply immediately or anything like that. So
Have you made any changes in your leave policy when you encourage this? You're talking about flexible work timing. Do you still encourage people to take off? Have you reduced the days? Have you increased the days? Have you made any
so
changes
we,
there?
we haven't done any changes to the leave policy. This is same as what was before COVID. We don't know how we are looking forward to hear from employees how they are looking at this. Maybe we might have to give some we have to implement a notion of forced vacation,
Yeah.
right?
I think that's a real problem, because when you're working from home, you feel like, hey, I can just do this forever. Or if I'm going to visit my parents somewhere, I can just keep working there. And we
Yeah,
never really actually take a break from work.
yeah. So I think so. One of the things I'm thinking is because of this remote plus model, we might have to implement. We might have to relook at the whole leave notion, and then try to implement something like a forced vacation concept. Meaning, this is early days, so we really don't know. We are really looking for patterns and proposals from our team, from community, everybody, and then see how to shape this. Honestly, leave is one another area which is unsolved problem for us, actually.
Yeah.
Honestly. Yeah.
There's a lot of questions about people joining in new joinees, freshers who are coming in, who maybe aren't used to this remote model, aren't used to these things, aren't used to your culture. So do you expect it just to be like, hey, you throw them in and they figure it out after a few weeks? Or do you have any ways to think about how do you actually bring someone up in the system and flush out all their other expectations and start fresh with this remote plus model?
Yeah. See, one of the thing, it is a challenge. First of all, let me. This is not for newcomers getting adapted. See, one of the biggest things we take pride in Kissflow is our culture. And the biggest worry that I have is how our newcomers are going to get an experience about our culture, because
Yeah.
now people are distributed in so many places.
And there's that feeling when somebody walks into an office for the first time, like, wow, look at everything. You see everything going on. Whereas in a remote plus, you just open your laptop the first day and everything's the same.
Yeah, that's right. So this is a real problem for us,
Yeah.
right? So we are hoping the 1 week on in office, as well as the 2 days quarterly company conference, will partly solve this problem, right? And this needs to be augmented by our digital platform. We need to be heavily online, and the way we talk, the way we share, the lot of those culture have to be built online through our digital platform, and then it needs to be consciously built by our managers and leaders.
Yeah.
So this is a lot more work for us to do here. This is a big it's an Himalayan or an Herculean task in front of us, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Another question is about leadership development. A lot of times in a remote model, the people who are individual contributors just kind of stay there because other people don't see their work as much, or they're not able to see other leaders. And even when you talk about leadership development, I feel like half of what you learn from other leaders is just watching them. You see them in an office, you go to a sales call with them, and then you talk about it in the car afterwards as you go home. You see people as you're walking through the elevator. Like there's this element that just kind of rubs off on you whenever you're around other leaders. You're trying to learn those traits. Remote plus models, I think, have a challenge in that way to try to figure out how do you actually build up that next level of leader in an intentional way. So have you given any thought to how you're going to do that?
Um, Meaning it is going to be a challenge, honestly.
Yeah.
So see, remote plus model is going to throw a number of new challenges, which is an uncharted territory, right? And one of the things is leadership development. The things that we are doing, see, in Kissflow, you used to have a program called OLP. It's a leadership training program, right? So that program is a conscious exercise for us to take like 25 to 30 or managers and then groom them to become next level leaders. So we have invested in that. So it used to work really well before the COVID crisis and before we adopted the remote plus model. We are hoping that we will have to double down on that even more in this remote plus model and invest in that model. So we are experimenting, just like the leadership and self deception program. We are starting other programs around fifth discipline, which is actually a learning organization kind of a model. We are also investigating some sort of a coaching sessions for our leadership team. So there are a number of new initiatives we are thinking, but I don't think there is a formula right now to say, what, in this remote plus model, this is how we will develop leadership. We don't have that yet. Maybe 1 year from now, if you come back and have another,
we'll do a follow-up.
We do a follow-up webinar, maybe then we would probably talk about how we have tackled some of these problems, complex problems, and came up with solutions.
Yeah. I will say we are over now. We're going to keep going with a few more questions just because I like the energy that's coming in. But if you need to leave, that's fine. Suresh, I really like the fact
that we can actually bring in some of the people to actually ask the question instead of, there is something called answer live, right? So can we?
I know Shweta is there helping us go through things. Shweta, on our chat, if you just want to highlight somebody, if you think that there's a question, I can allow someone.
There is a button called answer live, and if you hit on that, that person can come live and ask the question instead of you and me talking.
You're getting tired of hearing me speak. Is that what you're saying?
Nothing. I thought people will be tired of me seeing myself. You're pretty looking.
Let's see here if I can find somebody. I'll take one of my favorite questions here. Okay, Mohammed is here. I'm going to allow him to talk. Mohammed, if you're there, you had a question about one of my favorite topics, which is the 4-day work week. Can you speak now, Mohammed?
I think he has to unmute himself.
We'll try it. Just like everything else, we're just trying things. So we'll see if this works.
It says talking permitted, but he has to unmute himself. Maybe you have to go to the next person.
Maybe he's not set up for it. Let's see. Okay, let me get Kamala on here. And keep the questions coming because we'll also try to bring them in a different way too. So Kamala, I'm going to see if I can unmute you as well. You had a question about project-based companies. Do you want to ask that one?
Yeah, hello Suresh. This is Kamala Krishnamurthy.
Hi, Kamala. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Yeah. Is this model, do you think will work for a project-based company?
I think so. I don't see a problem whether it is a project IT services companies or a product company. It shouldn't really matter. Do you see specific issues? I'm not able to see it. Meaning, honestly, I should say I have worked in product-based companies for like 20 years now. So my exposure to IT services companies is being close to zero in the last 20 years. But I have a lot of friends and who work in the IT services, and a lot of friends who are leading IT services company CEOs who are my sort of peers. So I spend a lot of time with them. So I do understand their business, but I don't see anything in particular that will stop IT services companies in adopting this.
I see. So because the project-based companies generally that the expectation will be more because it is a time-bound project, so we may need to complete it. So,
meaning everything, even in product companies, everything is time-bound. There is nothing like you have unlimited time or anything like that. So, meaning as we speak, we are working towards a release that's supposed to be, we call it internally Independence Release, which is August 15th. So we have a deadline and everybody is working towards that deadline. And Here we have this is published to our customers, right? So there you have only one customer, but here we have thousands of customers. We tell them 15th August there'll be a new release of the product. So which means if you don't release, all of our customers will be like asking us questions. So it's the same problem everywhere. So there's nothing different.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right. Who else?
Let's see. So Terrence was on. He wanted a question about.
There are a lot of questions actually. There are like 38 questions.
Yeah. Okay, Alessandro's there. I'm gonna bring him on. He wanted to talk about the getting things done model. Let's see, Alessandro, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry, you don't see my picture because I haven't set my picture. Greetings from Italy.
Hi.
Yes. Welcome.
Hi. Suresh, nice to meet you in person. We are very proud to collaborate with Kissflow. Anyway, no, I was thinking about Remote Plus at the method of Allen Get Things Done that I found very useful to manage a lot of things in the proper way. So I was thinking like to combine Remote Plus and GTD could be really a win-win. What do you think?
Yeah, meaning when you talk about getting things done, it is what we tend to use OKRs for that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The OKR is essentially the GTD. In fact, OKR is one level higher, right? OKR simply says, you know what, these are our objectives and we are going to measure you against these key results. OKR stands for objectives and key results, right? So you basically define an objective and then you say, how do we know you achieve this objective? Because these are the key results. If you achieve these results, we assume that this objective is achieved. So that is the pair, right? It's OKR comes in pairs. So as long as you define the objective and key results, we don't even have to micromanage the activities or tasks. We leave the activities and tasks to the imagination of the individual. We believe the people who are closer to the problem know how to do a particular task really well. As a manager and a leader, all we need to do is to make sure that the objectives are aligned to the company objectives. If you do that and let the freedom for individual to pick the right task, which will yield the right result, thereby helping them achieve the key result and hence the objective, and hence it is aligned to the company, this whole thing is taken care of. And that's how we really see this problem.
So Alessandro, I will say that I think that GTD is a great model for people who are actually executing on the projects. And it's a good tool, like maybe not at the corporate level as in terms of like setting the big objectives, but once it comes time to say, hey, this is your objective, break it down into tasks, break it down into what needs to be done, prioritize those things. The GTD model, I think, is really effective for that. That's how I would apply it.
No, but I also think I'm a manager in a manufacturing company, so I have to manage a lot of people. I think it's also for myself because I simply explain in this way. GTD says, if there is something that you can do in less than 2 minutes, do it. Otherwise, plan or delegate it. And so I found you're right when you say that for execution is perfect, but I think also for leader is very important because there is no pending items, no ball in the sky. Yeah. So it's and I think that when you bring a concept like Remote Plus, that is for me really is brilliant. You need also to have to be more accurate in execution. And so I think that any method that help to execute in a proper way can really help Remote Plus to succeed.
Yeah, completely agree with you on that. And when I said that, the GTD model works better at the execution level, not saying like a hierarchical way, like even leaders need to execute those plans.
Not for creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can also get Sri Krishna to speak if he can.
Okay, we'll take one more.
Sri Krishna Parthasarathi, can you also?
Yeah, he's there. You're live on the show.
Hey.
Yeah. Good evening.
Hi. Good evening.
Yeah. So, in this remote kind of environment, right? We all are in, right? So, training is a kind of a must in whatever we do, right? What we have observed a few things with regards to having full day trainings, right? It's not going to work, right? People cannot focus with other things having working on full days, right? What we have kind of made like maybe half a day kind of a thing spread over a period of a couple of days, right? Works for us, right? Do you see that will be the a new normal until we get into a full way of working? What patterns do you see from your side, right? Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. So I'm going to sort of put you back on mute. So, so basically see, it's a very tactical question, training, right? And it depends on the company and the actual program. I don't think we can come back and recommend, this is the global model for everybody to do training. I don't think that will be a fair or a correct thing to do. You got to sort of make your own decisions. So, meaning we have, for example, for product trainings for new joinees, we have decided we will do 2-hour training every day instead of doing like one whole batch of training. So that's really what we are doing. So you got to sort of pick what works for you. So I think it's a very, very situation and context specific. I don't think we can generalize this here. Yeah. Neil, what else?
Good. I mean, I think that's a kind of a good place to end the question session on. What I want you to end on, Suresh, is just letting us know. I mean, we talked about, hey, let's do a follow-up in a year, but let's imagine that we're 1 year later. What do you think are some of the how will your model look different? What do you anticipate already that you're going to need to change? You're going to need to adapt. Where is your focus as a CEO? Where are you looking in terms of Remote Plus as it moves to the future?
No, I think there are two important things I got to test it needs to pass the test of time, right? One is this 1 week model that we are talking about. We have still, it's at the very early stages, right? And also the 2-day, see the crux of the Remote Plus model, everything else is like icing on the cake, right? But the core idea of Remote Plus comes from 3 weeks work from anywhere and 1 week work from office, plus the 2-day company conference over a Saturday and Sunday, and having track sessions to make everybody there, have a relaxed environment, mix up everybody, and then do it after 2-3 quarters and see if you are able to bring at least somewhat comparable work culture before COVID type work culture back in the company, right? So if you are able to bring that back, then I think we would consider that as a success. So that is really the two big things that I am watching out for. Yeah, making sure that we are able to execute that really well.
Well, Suresh, it's been great to talk with you. Like I said, and I've been repeating before, I love the fact that you're always willing to try these things. We need more people like you who are willing to take the gamble, take the risk, be the first one to step out, so that many other people can follow along and try their own versions. If everyone in India and the world tried Remote Plus, we would have, 1 million different variations of it. And that's great. Exactly. But we need the people to actually go out first and give it a shot. So thank you for coming on and being a leader in that way.
Thank you, Neil. Great talking to you. And thanks everyone for joining this session. Really appreciate it.
Yep. And we'll try to, all the questions that we didn't get to, we'll maybe keep an eye on thedigitalworkplace.com. We'll try to put an article up there to look at those. We'll also have places to have the recording and other ways so you can check on these things. So thedigitalworkplace.com is a great place to go to see everything we're talking about here. Sign up for our newsletter. See that. Also check out Kissflow. Be sure to see that as an essential part of your digital workplace. And we thank you very much for being a part of this.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.